So FIFA 23 has been out for about 3 weeks now, and I think now is a good time to do our official FIFA 23 review. I did not want to do a review too fast because, as you all know, in recent years, the odds of patches changing the entire game completely is very well known and very common. So I felt like I wanted to wait just a little bit, and I thought 3 weeks is a good length of time. To start off, tell me down below in the comments, out of 10, what would you rank FIFA 23? And I've broken it down into 5 different areas here. So number 1 being gameplay, number 2 being playability or servers, so kind of like how is the game for you, can you play it, is there a lot of bugs that's ruining your experience, and number 3 would be career mode, even little like miscellaneous things like soundtracks and stuff like that as well. Keep in mind, boys, that this is it. This is the last FIFA. So a lot of people, because not all people privileged enough to go and buy every single game, and I understand that, and there's people that actually like really rely on reviews, not just like this, but on other channels, on other sources like IGN, etc, etc, that waits for how the game actually is before they go and put 30, 40, 50, 60, even sometimes even £90 on a video game, which is a lot of money. Games are expensive and not everyone has £60 to go spend on a game. That's why I want to take this as serious as I possibly can, because people really do rely on these videos. So straight up, is FIFA 23 a different game compared to its previous, so 22, 21, and I would say that gameplay wise it is definitely a different experience, but it's not mind-blowing, and I don't think we should really expect anything that's really mind-blowing, because end of the day there's only so much that EA can do when it's EA. No one really buys FIFA with the conception that they're going to be experiencing an entirely new experience. It just isn't going to happen. That's why when buying a new FIFA it always feels like, is it really worth it? Is it really any different to 22? And really the main reason why I want to play it is because of FUT and just being up to date with the brand new promos, and it is exciting when you first start FUT and that first week or two when everything is all new. What's the new like meta, what's the new gameplay, what things work, what things don't work. You know, this time of the year, especially for like trading, etc, etc, is the best time of the year because it feels like anything is worth your time. So the long-winded form of my first question is it different to its previous FIFAs? And I would say that not really, unless if you are a hardcore or a regular player of FIFA, you would not notice too much of a difference. I honestly don't think that. Cheapest and most reliable coins on FIFA 23, then go down below to use them and buy. Top link in description, and make sure to use code Vizeh for 5%. So if you play a game quite often and you have, you know, quite a few hundred games played in FUT, or you play a ton of career mode, then you can tell the difference. But I think if you're a pure casual, it's not groundbreaking. But that is not to say that there isn't positive. So let's get into one of the main ones, and that is the fact that the gameplay this year, as of now, as of when I'm talking, the 18th of October, that the gameplay right now has got a level of skill gap to it that it has not got, in my opinion, compared to the other FIFAs like 21 or 22. That I feel like gameplay has got much more of a realistic footballing element to it, that passing has an element of risk, that you can make mistakes, that shooting has become more balanced, that there's a lot of different ways to go and shoot, if it's near post, if it's cross body, if it's headers, if it's long shots, or if it's finesse shots. There's different ways that you can score goals from a wide variety of angles, and I feel like you actually have a more higher chance of scoring a goal the closer you are. So if you actually are one-on-one with a goalkeeper, there's less likely of a chance that they will make a miraculous save or your player will miss a shot if they have a higher shooting stat. Now, of course, a big problem is that in other FIFAs, I think 21 had a real bad one, that like finesse shots from like 30 yards out was like massively overpowered, but the keepers inside the box made save after save after save, and I feel like this year it's a lot more balanced out. There are, for example, a shot called a Trivela shot, which I think you got to press LT or L2 when you're on PlayStation or Xbox to do like kind of outside the foot shot, which is quite OP right now, but as far as I'm aware, that is going to be patched and getting a bit more reduced as other patches comes out, and I hope that is the case. The gameplay this year is heavier and the gameplay this year is slower, and if you do not like this game, if you do not like this gameplay, then the reason why is because the gameplay this year, and I hate to say it, and I think it was I think Inception that said this, that the reason why you may not like this game is that it is more resemblant to PES than it is to FIFA. Now PES is still way off ahead when it comes to, you know, the kind kind of more realistic, heavy, but, you know, a pure footballing game where it's, you know, you really got to think about your attack. You've really got to think about how to defend, because you can't just rush players out and almost jockey them, you know, like what you can in FIFA, right? So FIFA is still way ahead and a lot more sort of arcade-like compared to PES, but it is definitely a step towards the PES kind of realistic side than what it has been known as a kind of FIFA arcade-like simulator, the kind of ping-pong ball simulator that we've had in recent years. And that the main thing that I can compare it to is that when you look at 21 or 22, let's look at 21 Pro gameplay. It was a lot of spamming of the buttons, kind of bridges and like Lakaketa Council and flip-flaps, and it just seemed like a bunch of pros were just spamming a ton of skill moves to kind of like bug their way through players because the defenders don't really know how to react to it. When this year, when I watch Pro gameplay, it does look like there's a lot more about passing and moving and triangles, and there are some skill moves that are involved, but skill moves is a lot more of a riskier thing to achieve because it's a heavier gameplay. When you try to do skill moves, that what happens is that it is a lot more easier to read and a lot more easier to react because it takes slower to actually perform the skill moves. So that is what I would say is a benefit and a positive, and it's a step in the right direction, because I feel like the slower the gameplay and that the easier it is to read your opponent. So if I know what you're going to do, if I read your attack, if I know what through ball you're going to do, and if I control my defenders and I place them in the right spot, which some players don't, people don't know how to control their entire defense because you can't just rely on AI. You've got to actually kind of swap between your defenders to actually switch them about. If you can do that, if you are a better defender, if you can read the game better, then you should win the game. And that is, for me, where the skill gap should be. The skill gap should be, can I read what you're going to do better than you can read what I'm going to do? Defending, and it sounds boring, and I get that, because the most enjoyable thing about football is scoring goals, and I completely get that. But in a game like FIFA, the way that I compare it, my brother, when he was a pro player, back when I was growing up, he always knew what I was going to do when I was going to pass the ball, and he just controlled his players, and just always blocked it out. He always knew where I was going to do, and what my next move was. So it was easy for him to read the game, and that's why I could never beat him. And that's where I look at FIFA and think that is what the game should be, that if you are smarter than me and you know what I'm going to do and you can counteract it, then you should win the game. And that is where the skill gap should be. And that the skill gap is that if you could find a player, if you could do a skill move, so some passing moves that he can't read, he can't react to in time, then that is also the skill gap. And that is something that I feel like is a lot more achievable in this FIFA than what it is in previous years, because for example 22, my main concern is that it became so much about a kind of counter-attacking through ball simulator, and that there really wasn't an element of a mix of tactics, a mix of gameplay. You got the custom tactics, but I feel like it never made a difference, because no matter what you try to do, if you try to be a more slower, possessive, type of player, and that you try to actually play football and do some triangles and actually, kind of be smart on how you're going to move the ball, no matter what you do, it always ended up being that your players are always just making these like perfect runs through the back line all the time in the same areas, no matter what tactics you put onto them. And that it's always going to be like, okay, if I don't do a through ball here, then I'm just going to be hurting myself here, because the chances are right there, and I'm going out of my way to not take the easy opportunity, because that is what the game is wanting me to do, but I don't want to do that. And I felt like the game's been like that for about the last 2 years now, that the gameplay has been all about kind of counter, through ball, counter simulators, and I hate it. I hate it because it feels like everyone plays the exact same way. And it was awful back in 21 that when you had this alongside people having the same teams, and the Mendys and the Varans and the right backs and left backs and centre backs, that was the lowest point of FIFA for me. And this year I feel like there's definitely a lot more variety in terms of how you can play the game. So that is my kind of breakdown on gameplay. And let's get into the next part here, which is kind of the more negative side. And that is, there is definitely a feeling that once EA has your money, they simply don't care about kind of pleasing you or make sure that the game is really intact. And what I mean by that is the amount of mistakes that I've seen in the first 2-3 weeks is diabolical. Like, it is genuinely diabolical. And when I say that, I truly mean it. I've been around the block, right, on the EA, FIFA hype train, and the kind of train as well. I really have been, and it's really been incredible what I'm witnessing here. Okay, I mean, there's been the hero pack gate. How they even pulled that off is incredible, and there's been so many problems in terms of players. A couple of days ago, like for one 6 p.m. content, they messed up like 5 times. That they had like the Napoli license and an SBC that they don't even have the license for in there. They've also got players with completely broken price ranges everywhere. They're dropping players with the completely wrong stats, dropping players with the completely wrong dynamic images. Like, I mean, don't forget, before the actual game came out, the game was already released to some people. The beta was already released to people before the full game was even out. That was a massive issue. And then guess what? What happened a couple of days ago? Literally 6 days ago, the World Cup DLC was released on PlayStation for no reason. You were just able to go and see the order menus and all that. What? How can you accidentally release a DLC? How can you accidentally release a 25k tradable hero pack for 5 minutes in only certain regions of the world where other people don't get that same thing? I don't know how you pull this off. I'm seeing people, traders who are legit, still get banned every single day, week, and they do it all online. They do it all, and it's all legit, and they still get banned for it. I'm seeing PC players with their bugs and their hacks on Rivals and on FUT Champions, and they kind of are now really diluting, you know, the actual mix of players you could play in FIFA, and that is also ruining that for a ton of people. There's also a problem that on PC FIFA that people still cannot get onto the game for like the first week of the game. I think it's now getting better now that the EA anti-cheat system basically stopped like almost everyone playing the game. Some people managed to get through, some people had a bunch of issues with it for weeks afterwards, and that sometimes it tries to play the game and it just keeps on freezing and crashing, and that they just cannot play it. That is still a problem for, I believe, some people still now, and that really harms the playability of the game. That there's so many problems, and especially massive, like harmful ones, like the FUT Hero tradable pack, that if you were on the game for 5 minutes at 6 o'clock, you know, and therefore you got like a massive advantage to the entire community, and it's got gifted 200, 300, for some people 1 million coins, and for some people who had a hero in their club at that time period, they could have lost hundreds of thousands of coins because of a mistake that EA made, and that they've lost all that coins for absolutely no reason, and that would ruin the experience for tons of people, and that would just make them think, why am I even bothering? So that is a massive problem, and do I think that it will get better? Hell no. It's EA. Like, why would anything get better? Why would they actually learn from the mistakes? They don't care. They already have your money. They already have my money. So why would they think about changing that? Because they've already won in that aspect. So that's just my kind of thoughts about the bugs, and also the just countless mistakes. I mean, how do you accidentally release a DLC World Cup just for no reason? Like, menus are just available. Makes no sense. And that's my thoughts on that. And that does really taint it. I feel like our standards are so low in the FIFA scene that they can do all this, and it still doesn't matter. And I do kind of understand why people in other communities kind of laugh at the kind of sports gamer scene, you know, Madden and FIFA, because they kind of think that no matter what they do, we're still going to play, because we're obsessed with playing a sports game, a football game, a American football game. They laugh at us because they think that no matter what they do, no matter how much they almost disrespect us or just completely laugh at us and mock us for the money that we give them, it wouldn't matter. And for some elements of that, they do have a point. I want to touch upon career mode. I think career mode this year is definitely I want to say that it is somewhat a step in the right direction. I do think the playable highlights this year definitely speeds it up a lot more. You can go through an entire season much more faster. It doesn't feel like a slog as it used to in previous years. You can kind of fly through games and kind of go through the highs and lows in it, and it almost feels like there's an element of like it's not as easy, because if you do it as attack only, you know, sometimes you could just be 2-0, 3-0 down and you have no control of it, but it's kind of all based on your rating your team. So if you're trying to do like a Burnley, you know, save, and I go to Premier League and I'm doing attack only, then I feel like it is actually hard to actually, you know, stay up. And I think that is important, because it kind of has always been easy to play career mode. Even sometimes on the legendary difficulty. For some reason, it just doesn't make that much of a difference sometimes. I guess depends on how good you are at FIFA, I guess, but I always found that I could just have a normal burning team with like 2 players, like a Martial or Lozano, and I could still win the league, and I feel like that was always like a bit of a problem for me. The player career mode especially, I feel like it is a step in the right direction. If you're a career mode type of player, I do feel like you will find some enjoyment here, and some sort of new experience in the player career mode that you've not had in previous years. So if you are a player that does play career mode, then you would definitely find something new and something that you can enjoy, at least, depends on how long you get into it, but there is definitely something there that you can experience and think, wow, this is worth the money that I put into it, and I do feel like there's definitely something in that. The market and trading is kind of what you expect, especially the fact that both the PlayStation and Xbox side is all mixed in one pool, so that's going to cause a lot of different fluctuations that we may not get in other years, and the market can be really dead for a lot of cards or really inconsistent for others. The best thing on FIFA, I feel like, is the presentation. The presentation when you play career mode, for example, is pretty much the best you really get, with all the licenses of UEFA competitions and all the teams that's in the game and the league licenses and the HUDs and everything about it. I feel like that is the best part of the game, the kind of pre-game cinematics and even just the cinematics of the game and how the game looks like on the pitch when you go play career mode. I would say that's probably the best part of the game, playing career mode. No other football game, even PES when fully modded, looks as good as FIFA in my opinion, unless you get like a really high-tech PC and you can mod PES that way. FIFA, for a normal person that has not got a PC and doesn't know how to mod, you can't get any better than FIFA really, when it comes to presentation and a footballing experience and an authentic experience with all the licenses involved. You can't get much better than that. So that is one of the main benefits of FIFA. And overall, should you buy the game? I would kind of say that if you cannot wait, if you're a football enthusiast, you go and talk to your friends each day and they're playing FIFA and whatever else, then you can play the game. But if you aren't too bothered, if you kind of not got the money, or you just kind of questioning it, then you can wait till there's a sale. There always will be a sale around Christmas time that you can get it for £10 cheaper for samples, sites like that, and you can get it for a little bit cheaper, so it doesn't feel like it's as much of a damage to your pocket or a damage to your soul when you do buy this game. Because overall, it is a FIFA game. There's not too much you can change. The presentation is amazing on it, as it always is, and the gameplay is, for me, better. To all that, I would say, out of 10, when I look at FIFA, I would say that it is, as of right now, if we talk about like a perfect game, if we talk about a game that, has got all of its areas ticked, all areas has been improved, it is like a 7, 6. Like, I feel like our standards are so low that even some sort of step in my direction, even minutely, is like a thing to be praised. I still feel like there's so much more that can be done, but it would be higher if there wasn't so many mistakes, and I feel like these mistakes are going to keep happening and will kind of keep almost like tainting the experience for everyone else. Out of 10, I'll give it a 7 because I still feel like there's still so much more that can be done, and that kind of the mistakes that they've made has kind of tainted it for me. But that's just my thoughts. Give me yours down below in the comments, and I'll see you guys next time for another video. Stay safe.